Rapture Imminence and the Fig Tree Generation. Over the years, the doctrine of imminence has been a popular doctrine in the rapture community, and I have always been very uneasy about this doctrine. However, it is fair to say that since Israel re-entered their land in 1948, imminence has gained prominence because of that one event. 74 years later, and counting, we are closer to the rapture than we have ever been. Perhaps imminence is a relative concept. Whether the rapture is days, weeks, months, or years away, one could still say it is imminent. Another thought that occurred to me recently, with regards to the idea that certain events such as the Gog Magog war or the destruction of Damascus could happen before the rapture, is that this is not necessarily the case, and in fact probably is not. I came to this conclusion by going back to the Olivet Discourse in Matthew 24, and several of the other Gospels, in particular the verses immediately before the only rapture reference in that chapter, verses 40 and 41. Matthew 24 verses 37 to 41. But as the days of Noah were, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered the ark, and did not know until the flood came and took them all away, so also will the coming of the Son of Man be. Then 2 men will be in the field, one will be taken and the other left. 2 women will be grinding at the mill, one will be taken and the other left. The picture painted by this passage is of a time of peace and prosperity, not a time of war and desperation, particularly as the teaching in the Olivet Discourse is directed primarily towards Israel, which would have already fled into the wilderness if the Gog Magog war had already happened. So how does this relate to the doctrine of imminence? Simply put, although we know that the destruction of Damascus and the Gog Magog invasion of Israel will happen in the future, we can be almost certain that the rapture has to happen first. Does this mean that the rapture could happen tomorrow, just before the beginning of summer in Israel? Maybe, but it could also mean that the rapture could happen any time between now and 2028, when the full 80 years of Psalm 90 verse 10 has elapsed. We do know that Israel is on the verge of new elections due to the loss of several members of the Knesset. So yes, days, weeks, months, years. Perhaps the rapture is more imminent than we think, or less imminent than we would sometimes prefer, but imminent nevertheless. I took a photo of my fig tree today, and 2 days before the end of the season, you will see that it's down to its last leaf. I'm not saying this is a sign, but I don't know the day of the rapture, so it quite possibly could be. We will find out in 2 days. After that, we will either be in heaven, or we will continue to watch until that day comes. As always, like, comment and subscribe if you feel led, and see you on the other side if the Lord doesn't tarry.